That'd be nice.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
All right.
The village closes. Okay. I don't often go to. So it's more kind of on that, okay.
Yeah, I'm the Cooper County Clerk.
Okay.
Howard County, so. From what at least I dubbed myself.
Right.
Good morning.
I'm from Cooper County here.
Okay.
This is the October 10th, 2023 meeting of the Jefferson City Board of Adjustment. My name is Drew Hake. I am chair of the board. I'd like to introduce members present. Jim Crabtree. Here. Katie Lacey. Brad Schaefer. Jamie Seaver. Here. And Adam Cartwright. And let's see, Michael Eichner. Okay. All right, staff, if you're ready, would you please introduce yourselves?
Point of West City Planner?
Eric Barron, Planning Manager.
Clint Smith, Director of Planning and Tech Services.
Sean McCall, Associate City Attorney.
Tiffany Pearson, Administrative Assistant.
Thank you. Oh, let's see.
Aaron Wiseman, Third Ward City Council.
There you go.
Sorry. I don't feel important. I'm just here for liaisoning purposes.
Okay, very good. It's my understanding we have another member of council here.
Yes, but I'm Jack Deacon, but I'm gonna speak about the.
Okay, thank you. All right, Missouri law requires at least 4 affirmative votes to be cast for the approval of any official matter before this board. Alternates may be designated to vote upon the absence or disqualification of any regular member. A quorum of 4 members or alternate is necessary to conduct the business. I declare that a quorum is present. Let's see, one of our members, Roy Michael, is absent this morning. Are there any members who feel they need to disqualify them from this proceeding for any reason?
Mr. Chairman, after consult with our Assistant City Attorney, I will not vote on case number B23007. My wife serves on the board of the Early Childhood Center. While there's no gain, we just felt it would be most appropriate.
Thank you. Okay, that will adjust the voting order. Where does that put it? All right. Mr. Crabtree will be out.
Just on that one case.
Just the first?
Second
case only. Okay,
Yes.
all right. All right, so the voting members for case 1 is Hake, Lacey, Crabtree, Schaefer, and Seaver. And we'll sort out the second case here in a little bit. Me looking at you means handle it. Okay,
We'll establish the votes.
on the second round. Okay, is there an applicant or representative present for these cases? Case B23006, 1112 Jackson Street, conditional use permit, rear setback. Case number B23007, 1842 East McCarty Street, conditional use permit. So raise your hands, please. Thank you. Are there any requests for a continuance in any of these matters?
No, we have not received any requests.
Seeing none. Is there any request to reorder the agenda?
No.
Seeing none. Okay, all testimony and evidence shall be submitted to the board under oath. At this time, all those who wish to speak shall please stand and raise your right hand. That means anybody that wants to say anything. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you. Be seated. Is there a member from the public school represented here?
He's supposed to be here, but he's not here yet.
Okay. Okay. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as printed or reordered?
So moved.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Can I have a motion to adopt the minutes of the August 8, 2023 meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Any correspondence in this matter this morning? None received, thank you. All righty then. Okay, here we go. Case number B23006. Wait a minute. Staff. I left you out, didn't I? Sorry. Do your thing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to briefly describe the procedures of the board. The proceedings of the meeting are being recorded, so please project your voice when speaking so that the microphones around the room can pick up your voice, and give your name and address for the record. The standard order of each case is as follows. After introduction of the request by city staff, the applicant or their consultant will provide information on the request. The opening presentation by the applicant shall be limited to 10 minutes unless additional time is granted by the board. The applicant shall have an additional 3 minutes for closing testimony if requested. We will then ask to hear from supporters of the request. We will then ask to hear from opponents of the request. We will then ask to hear from anyone else who wishes to speak on the request. Testimony shall be limited to 3 minutes each unless additional time is granted by the board. City staff will then give their recommendations on the request. In order to reduce the time necessary to hear an application, references to printed materials including staff reports and applicable findings cannot be read into the record unless directed by the board. The board will close testimony from the floor. The board will discuss the proposal, then publicly make its determination with reasons. The board motion shall be positive, that is, the motion shall be made to accept the request as presented or with modifications, stipulations, or conditions. A final vote will be taken with ayes in favor and noes opposed. The chair shall announce the results of the vote, specifying the number of votes cast in favor and the number of votes cast against. If four or more votes are cast in favor of the motion is approved. If 3 or less votes are cast in favor of the motion is denied. The following documents are entered as exhibits for all items under consideration at this meeting. The City Code of the City of Jefferson as amended, the comprehensive plan and land use map, copies of applications under consideration, a list of property owners to whom notices were sent, the affidavit of publication of the public notice in the newspaper, copies of drawings, plans, and/or renderings under consideration, letters or memoranda from staff reports, minutes of proceedings, correspondence, or other materials submitted by the public or the applicant. Rules of procedure for the Jefferson City Board of Adjustment. These items are public record and available for inspection to the Department of Planning and Protective Services or through the Office of the City Clerk. Please be advised that any items that are distributed, presented, or otherwise received pertaining to the cases under consideration become the property of the board. This includes any photographs, drawings, petitions, and letters. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Now, we'll go case number B23006, 1112 Jackson Street, conditional use permit and rear setback variance. Request filed by Jefferson City School District property owner for a conditional use permit for a new 7,680 square foot building at the Jefferson City High School campus for Nichols Career Center and a setback of 8 inches from the required 25-foot rear setback of the RS4 medium density residential zoning district in order to permit a 24.33 feet rear setback. The property is located on the west side of Jackson Street, 200 feet north of Union Street, and is described as part of Woodcrest subdivision in the city of Jefferson, County of Cole of Missouri. Of course.
Mr. Chair. The property is highlighted on the screen and is located on the west side of Jackson Street, located about 200 feet north of Union Street. It is zoned RS4, medium density residential, and contains vacant land. Surrounding zoning includes the following. To the north is RS2, residential with single-family residential use. To the east is RS2, low density, and then RS4, medium density residential, with their being uses such as, in particular, educational facilities, notably Nichols Career Center. Then to the south is adjacent zoning, or the south is RS2 low density and RS4 medium density zoning with uses such as athletic fields. And adjacent zoning to the west is RS2, single-family residential with a single-family residential use located there. This is a close-up aerial image of the site. This is a bit outdated image that is about a bit outdated. It does show some equipment there that was used during the construction of the athletic fields, but since has been removed. But nonetheless, it does show a little bit of what's going on inside. And in particular, it shows that there are 3 lots, what were once 3 residential lots, and then what is now a vacated street that was once called Old Place. This property does, a little bit of history on it first is that in 2019, the tornado did cause some notable damage in this area, and since that point, the school district has acquired that property and has demolished the buildings as seen in that image. So what they're requesting today is 2 things: a conditional use permit and a rear setback variance, both pertaining to a new structure that they wish to build. This new structure would contain the operations of a building trades and cosmetology program. And since this is a conditional use in the RS4 medium density residential zoning district, this would require the obtainment of a conditional use permit. In addition, that structure that they wish to build would go into the rear setback a bit by 8 inches. So they're requesting an 8-inch variance to allow for a 24-foot, 4-inch rear setback. This is a street view. This is obtained from Google Earth, but it is dated from June of 2023. So it does show a couple things to keep in mind on the left-hand side. So this is looking from Jackson Street into the site, and north would be on the right-hand side of the screen, and then south would be on the left-hand side of the screen, looking directly into the site. That would be west. And so a couple things to note on that image is on the left-hand side is the fencing that goes along the athletic facilities, looking directly into the site. In the middle of the screen is property, residential homes a little bit further back adjacent to the property, and then also some existing vegetation. And then to the north is some vegetation as well as a home that is owned by last name Mendoza. That will come up here in a bit when it pertains to buffer yard. This is the site plan that they've got. This is the structure that they wish to build for that new facility. And the proposed use is again to house a building trade and cosmetology program. And just a couple things to note here is that they do show a new driveway that would connect into Jackson Street. And they do show parking space, new sidewalk, and they propose to have stormwater lines which would direct drainage around the new structure down to the lines that would connect into the lines that are by the outfield fence of the athletic facilities. A traffic study analysis is not required at this time. And now I'm going to go into a bit of that. Well, first, on the lower left-hand side of that site plan is some notes, and in particular one is called C-12. That is the note that shows where that rear setback variance, that area where that rear setback variance applies to that building there on the left-hand side. And then now going to the buffer yard. So they do have some buffer yard proposed. On the north and west side property line, they're going to keep the existing timber and brush. And then for the south side, they will be doing some new fence realignment. And now to discuss now that on that Mendoza property, which was shown previously, that house there that on the left or the right hand side, for the south and west property lines of that property, they propose to take out the existing fencing and then put in a new 6-foot tall solid vinyl fence. And they also show on this plan 5 canopy trees lining the north parking lot. This shows the elevations. This is a document that's submitted by the applicant that shows the exterior elevations on the property. And it shows the east side of the building, what would be the east side of the building, and the south side of the building. And one particular thing to kind of keep in mind with what would go on the exterior of the building in includes the signage that might appear on the facade. And so with this, staff is proposing that any signage on the site to follow the regulations of the C1 Neighborhood Commercial District, which would allow them a certain percentage of signage on the facade and then also one freestanding sign. This is just another illustration provided by the applicant that shows the interior of the space, what they plan to do with it, which includes, again, that building trades and cosmetology program, including you can see things like a shop, classroom space, storage, restrooms, and etc. And with that, additionally, so the role of the Board of Adjustment on this is, of course, to review and come to a decision on both the conditional use permit and then also the rear setback variance. Both the conditional use permit and the rear setback, they have findings associated with them. The applicant has supplied a response to them in their application materials found in the case packet, and the staff has also provided comments on those same findings and the staff report also in the case packet. I'll pass this back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Courtney?
Mr. Chair, if I may. The rear setback variance is very small. I'll try to point it out for you.
Yeah, that's.
And so it's back here, and so on your paper drawings, perhaps you'll be able to see that. I guess you don't have a paper drawing of that particular one. And so it is right back here. So I think the building actually meets that setback standard of 25 feet from the property line up here, but is curved ever so slightly so that it gets over into the setback at a maximum point of about 8 inches, right there. And of course, so they've placed that building in the available property. They can't push it back any further, or they can't push it forward, because then they would be up against a 10-foot, would actually be a side setback over on this side. And so if they push it 8 inches one direction, they're just getting closer to this house. And so, but that's the location of the particular variance. I will point out that this is actually a revised drawing that responded to some staff comments. The original drawing, which I think was originally posted for this case, actually had the doorway for the cosmetology program a little bit further up in the building. They moved it down so as not to have such an influence on the neighboring property. So I said it used to be right about there, and so they've moved it down to there. And then also the row of trees along the parking lot was a staff comment. Courtney kind of went through the various buffer yard, but just to kind of go over it again, there's an existing wooden fence that's set back from. It's not on the property line for the Mendoza property, and so that's kind of shown on the drawing. As Courtney mentioned, that would be removed and a new fence installed on the property line. So the Mendoza property gets a little bit bigger of a backyard, if you will, whereas the fence is moved to its proper location, courtesy of this project. And then on the northern property line, there is a row of existing vegetation and then also an electric line. So we kind of looked at that, but there's not a whole lot you can do. The existing vegetation on the north property line gives a pretty good buffer on the north side. So you certainly wouldn't want to remove it in favor of anything different. And then on the western side, kind of the same situation. There's a row of kind of dense growth built up along an old fence, if you can imagine. It's pretty dense, and so once again, it's shielded quite well with the existing vegetation on that property line. To the south is the ball field, and so they just relocate their own chain link fence to kind of match up with the proper location for that. So that's kind of going around the site on how it's impacting the property. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Herring? You mentioned electric on the backside. Is that overhead or underground?
It's overhead, and it's very small. It's, I think, basically a service line.
Just residential. Okay.
So it's nothing. The only reason I pointed out is that you can't put trees there very easily.
Fair enough. Any other questions from members of staff?
I don't know if this is the time to ask or not, but is on the property to the north, up the hill, is there, what's the access to that backyard, for example?
You mean access to this area?
Not that area, keep going.
That up there, or this over here?
Right there, right there. Is there a driveway or anything in that property, or what?
It'd be through their own side yards, is what it is today.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, who would like to present this case before this board? Approach the podium, name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, I'm Brian McMillan with Central Missouri Professional Services, 2500 East McCarty Street. And I'm not used to having the microphone. But anyway, so this project has kind of come about early this year. And Nichols Career Center currently has a building trades program, but they do not have a cosmetology program. And I think they're wanting to kind of grow both and need to building trade needs to expand out of the existing building, and cosmetology needs a new building. And I'm very familiar with cosmetology. My daughter just graduated from cosmetology school, so I didn't realize the need for cosmetologists around, but it seems like everywhere is looking for cosmetologists. So I think it'd be a very important thing for our community. But this site is very kind of tight. It's kind of what's left over from the sports complex, and we've kind of squeezed it back in here. It's kind of tucked back in. I did do a last second visual that I included in the handout that kind of shows where the building's going to set in the site. And I just kind of wanted to show the big mature trees that kind of surround it that provide a really good buffer for most of the neighboring property. The Mendoza property is probably the most exposed property to this project. And we did meet with him, and he was very positive on the project, and he just asked to improve the fence and just move the door over from being right behind his property. So, and that was also a staff comment. So I think we've made some people happy there. But other than that, I think this will fit in here pretty good. The building trades program is mainly students that will be using the existing high school parking lot, and a lot of them are bused in from other schools. So there isn't a huge need for parking here. The cosmetology does need a parking lot because they do have customers that come in and get their hair cut or whatnot by the students. So that's why we have provided parking that would be similar to a commercial type beauty salon or something. But and that's who will mainly probably use that parking lot. So other than that, the reason this building setback, this property line on the west side is at an angle, and we wanted to match the building up with the Mendoza back property line. And so that's why this thing kind of gets, we probably could try to, we've redone the building quite a few times to get it to fit, and it was just squeezing things together. That's kind of how it ended up. So that's the reason for this building setback variance. So other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board?
So that front gray section is the parking lot?
Yes. The light gray is parking lot, the dark gray is sidewalks. I will say that Mr. Frank Underwood is here from the school district, should you have questions, and then Leslie Backstrom from Architects Alliance is also here if you have questions about the building.
One of the things that whoever wants to answer it, that this is going to be, I'm a little confused in one way about the purpose of the building. I realize it's a training facility, which is a very good thing, but it's going to be run as a commercial entity?
Well, a cosmetology school, as part of the school, the students work on a lot of times they use the mannequin heads, but they do at some point start cutting real people's hair. So having people come in to get their hair cut, there'll be a need for parking close by for customers to come in and do that. So it's not really a commercial salon, but we do need to have parking available for those people that come in.
So more or less practical experience for the participants.
Right.
Okay. That's a good clarification. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in favor of this request? If so, please approach the podium, give your name and address for the record. And
Mr. Burke showed up.
yeah. Okay, we're gonna have to swear you in. Is that all right with you?
That's fine, swear me in. I
Okay.
apologize.
Okay, if you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
All right, Frank Underwood, I work for the school district, 315 East Duncan Street, Jeff City, Missouri. I just wanted to speak on behalf of the project that we have planned here. And just to add on to what Mr. Bryan said, the building trades building, they do not have a building of their own that they use currently. Right now, they use the city-owned piece of property on Myrtle, and I believe they occupy the basement of that for building trades. So they get down there and they're limited to the space that they have in terms of the tools and the equipment that they use, building trusses for houses for Habitat for Humanity. And that's their big project every year is working on one of those houses. So this would allow them adequate space, room for tools and the equipment that you use, building trusses for these houses. The large driveway that you see coming in there is so that they can back a school bus in there to get the kids on that, and they take them to the job site. And so that is a reoccurring thing every day that they don't have weather when they're doing outside weather. As far as the neighbors are concerned, definitely, they like Brian had mentioned, we spoke to the neighbor up off of Jackson Street. I've worked intensively with the gentleman that owns Oberman Mansion back there and the said property, and he is very much in favor of. He was wanting to sell us some of his land so that we could build the building bigger to get it, and it's like, well, the budget piece of that didn't quite work out, but there will be work and fence line and stuff that we'll do to his property back there, and he's more than happy to allow us to do whatever we need back there to keep the trees from falling onto the property and stuff. He has some dead trees back there that will be taken out to protect the building and the property as well. But the cosmetology piece, it's new to the district. They're excited about it. They're on the hunt for a teacher for this next year. I believe they've got somebody locked in, ready to go on that. And I can say the clientele would not necessarily be advertised as a commercial clientele. It would probably be more teachers and staff that would be getting their haircuts there and whatnot. But give them that customer service experience and that practical experience, as he mentioned earlier. But this project here, I think, is really well. It's funded through a grant. A good portion of it's funded through a grant in terms of the equipment and things that are going in there. It's a matching grant, so we're looking forward to being able to bring this project in for the community as well as for the students as well as for our staff and be able to give these kids some good practical experience and be able to leave the cosmetology with a certificate. Brian didn't mention how much it costs to get a certificate through cosmetology, but I don't know what it is, but I hear that it's very expensive. So, but that's all I had. If you guys had any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions, Mr. Underwood?
Completion date anticipated?
August of this next year. Yep. Awesome. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this matter? Seeing none. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this matter? Seeing none. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this request for any reason? Seeing none? Okay, we'll kick it back to staff. Courtney?
So upon review of the commission's permit request and the rear setback variance request, staff has found that the use is consistent with the comprehensive plan and that it would be compatible with the existing institutional uses in the area. Again, staff is proposing that signage would to follow the regulations of the C1 zoning district, and observation of the uses compliance with all applicable city code requirements, including those outlined in the zoning, building, fire, and stormwater codes, would be observed in processes such as site plan review, inspections, and permitting. Before the board is two formal motions. One is for the first one being for the rear setback variance, which would allow them to have a variance of 8 inches to the required 25-foot rear setback to allow them to have a 24.33 or 24 feet and 4-inch rear setback. And then the second formal motion is one that would approve the conditional use permit with the following conditions that would allow signage to follow the regulations of the C1 neighborhood commercial district. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Staff's asking for two separate motions here.
Yes.
Mr. McMillan, a question I forgot to ask you just a moment or two ago. This won't take long.
Sure.
I want to get that in before we went to the motion. It was briefly mentioned that the students will be bused back into this facility. What effect on pedestrian activity on this street do you anticipate?
It's a school, so I mean, you always have a lot of pedestrians, but I think just by how things would work, the bus would be backed in to pick up the students. So most of the other students will already be in class at that time. So when that bus leaves, there probably won't. I've been around this campus a bunch here lately with the sports complex and the design of it, and being there with construction, and there's hardly any traffic at all during the daytime when school's in session. So I don't anticipate that bus coming and going while classes the rest of the school's in session would be a big hindrance to anything.
There are designated pedestrian walkways.
There is a pedestrian walkway that we put in as part of the sports complex, and we do have one at the top of the hill for the elementary school. Staff hasn't indicated that we need one at this crossing that may be too close in between the existing ones. So given there's not a whole lot of students in this deal, and a lot of the students that will be there are bused in from other schools. So at this time we don't have a pedestrian crosswalk. It could come up in the future, but once we get into final design with Public Works. So.
Okay. All right, thank you. Appreciate you coming back up here. Any other questions? Okay. All right.
Just make sure did we go through all the public hearing? Allow anyone who has a chance to talk?
Yeah, we went through the ones in favor, the ones against, and the ones that for any reason.
Okay, good deal.
We're good. Thanks for.
Didn't miss it.
Yeah, keep me on task. You know that. So, all right, very good. All right. Okay, so I guess now we're ready to make a motion on this thing. Would someone like to make a motion on the first matter?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion regarding case number B23006 to approve a requested setback variance of 8 inches from the required 25-foot rear setback of the RS-4 medium density residential zoning district in order to permit a 24.33 foot rear setback. And I will measure it.
Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Once again, we see an opportunity here for improving the school system here in this town. And also part of this is reclaiming, that's not the right word, using some of the damaged areas from the tornado a few years back and putting it to a very good purpose. The importance of education for the young people, and there's adults too that cannot be understated in this case. So About all I got. Okay, Miss Tiffany, let's have a roll call.
Okay. Hake,
Aye?
Crabtree,
Aye.
Lacy,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Seaver.
Aye.
5-0. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, now if I could have a motion on the second portion.
I can, like to make a motion again on case number B 23006 to approve requested conditional use permit for a new standalone 7,680 square foot building expansion of Nichols Career Center with the following conditions. Signage allowance for the site to be regulated by requirements of the C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Again, discussion? Pretty much the same, isn't it? Okay. Stephanie, roll call.
Hake,
Aye?
Crabtree,
Aye.
Lacy.
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Seaver.
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Okay, that takes care of that one. Mr. Crabtree, I am under the information presented. Do you wish to recuse yourself from this case?
Unfortunately, I will.
Okay. Adjust the vote.
And so that would, the senior alternate, Mr. Adam Cartwright, so it'd be the 4 regular members, that voted on previous, and then Mr. Cartwright to be the 5th. That hurts.
Okay, so the vote on this will be Hake, Lacy, Schaefer, Seaver, Cartwright, correct?
Right.
Okay. All right. Just a moment, we'll get to you. Okay, case number B 23007, 1842 East McCarty Street. Conditional use permit request filed by Jefferson City School District as the property owner for a conditional use permit for an early childhood center. The property is located approximately 500 feet west of the intersection of East McCarty Street and Eastland Drive, and is described as part of the east half of the southwest quarter of Section 16, Township 44 North, Range 11 West, and part of Tract 2 of Landwehr Hills Subdivision, Section 11, in the City of Jefferson, County of Cole, Missouri. Ms. Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This property again is located on the south side of East McCarty Street, located about.
Okay, just a moment. We're having some problem hearing. Is that?
Yes, that was my question. We couldn't hear her before, so I didn't know she could be mic'd up.
Okay. Just a moment, we'll adjust. New technology in this room.
Okay, so this property is located on the south side of East McCarty Street and located about 500 feet west of the intersection of East McCarty Street and Eastland Drive. It is zoned RS2, low density residential. Surrounding zoning includes the following. To the north is RS2, low density residential with uses such as single family residential. To the east is PUD with uses such as office space and a gas station. To the south is RS2, low density residential with uses, in particular the notable one being Lewis and Clark Middle School, and then to the west being RS2, low density residential zoning as well with uses such as a church and single family residential homes. Here's a closer-up aerial image of the site. It notes in gray and orange lines, contour lines, and then blue lines are the stormwater main, or the stormwater water lines, and then the green lines, the neon green ones, are the gravity main. This is a property that includes 2 parcels, but it is all encompassed in this request for conditional use permit. This request is for a early childhood center, and it stems from the public school looking for a different location. They right now have a location on St. Mary's Boulevard in this, what was once the Southwest Elementary School, but they're looking to relocate. And right now they're proposing that location. And a early childhood center is a conditional use within the R2 zoning district, so they're requesting that conditional use permit. The applicant has responded to the findings that pertain to conditional use permits in their application materials. Staff has provided responses to the same findings, and the staff report also found in the case packet. And the role of the board is to review and decide upon this conditional use permit. This is a site plan that the applicant has submitted for the request, and it includes the building. And so just to reorient, the left-hand side of this site plan is north, that's East McCarty going up and down. And then the south side of the site would be on the right-hand side of the image. And then the top of the page would be east, and then west would be on the south. On the bottom hand of the west would be on the bottom portion of the plan. This includes again the layout of the building, and then some notable things include on the left hand side of the page is a driveway that is proposed. It would include one egress right turn lane, one left egress turn lane, and one ingress lane. It also includes, it shows parking space and then also circulation for car riders, drop off and pickup, and then circulation for bus traffic, drop off and pickup. It includes new sidewalk and drainage locations. It includes a fire lane. It shows a fire lane, and there's stormwater infrastructure. Signage would include, staff is proposing that signage for the site to also follow the C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district, which will allow them a certain percentage of the signage, and then also a freestanding sign. And then this is looking into the site, a street view from Google Earth dated from June of 2023, and this is from East McCarty looking into the site. So this is how the view from where one would be entering into that proposed driveway, with the left hand side being north or east, and then west would be on the right hand side of that image. Again, they're asking for a conditional use permit to permit a early childhood center. Those are some beginning details of the request. Thank you, Ms. Chair.
Any questions for Ms. Courtney? Any other questions for staff? We don't have anybody from traffic here, do we?
No, our engineering representative isn't here right now. Okay. Certainly should be here any minute.
Okay. Who would like to present this case? To the podium, name and address for the record, please.
Brian McMillan, Central Missouri Professional Services, 2500 East McCarty Street. So as Courtney mentioned, the existing early childhood centers at the old Southwest Elementary, and everybody that's seen it, it's a very old building. It's multi-level. The kitchen, I think, is in the basement. It's just not a good facility for this type of use. And so I think with the last bond issue, it was passed that a new early childhood center would be built. And this property here, I think the school district acquired around, I want to say 2011. Matter of fact, one of our former employees, this was his grandma's property. And so we're kind of very familiar with it. He's even told us where the old barns were knocked down and burned and buried and stuff. So we got an idea of that. But this is a difficult property because it's kind of it's a ridge, and it runs right down the middle of the property. And you can see one side of the ridge in this picture. Then the other side, it drops off even steeper down behind Casey's, and it's all trees. So we're trying to stay out of that area as much as possible because we really can't do a lot. We're so steep going down to the creek behind Casey's. So anyway, so the layout that we've done, the architect came up with a building plan, and we just finished up what's called the schematic design phase of the project, where they came up with a building footprint, and then I took that footprint, put it on the site, and then they have a construction manager who is reviewing it and giving us estimates as we go through the phases. And right now, it's a little bit over budget, and so one thing that Eric wanted me to mention is that this may not be the final building footprint, because we're kind of making it smaller. We're adjusting things. We're looking at different options. And I did include another option in the packet I handed out on the last page, where basically I have flipped the building and mirrored it and rotated it down, where the offices were in the back are now kind of in the front. The school district hasn't seen this layout yet, so we didn't want to put it out there in the public quite yet. But I just wanted to make sure that we're wanting to get the use of this approved, but the final building footprint could be a little bit different once it's all said and done. So, but it will be the same concept. Right now, we're looking at the pedestrian car riders coming in off McCarty Street, the buses coming in off of the existing Lewis and Clark Drive, and keeping those separate. And this layout here, the parking's a little bit there's too much parking shown on this plan. So we've on the other plan has quite a bit less parking. We're wanting to keep it around 100 spaces. So this one has I want to say 170 or so. But anyway, so we have East McCarty Street has a turn lane, and initial review with engineering staff. I know you asked about traffic. My thought was that we could need a right turn drop lane, but their initial review, they don't think that'll be necessary, but we will definitely investigate that as we move through the process. But stormwater, as I mentioned, we're on a ridge, and so the water drops off both sides of the ridge. Part of it goes behind Casey's, and part of it goes down to the creek that's between this property and the church property. And there's an existing box culvert, or well, I think it's actually a big concrete pipe that goes underneath McCarty Street at this point. So most of our stormwater is going to go to that location, and we are planning an underground detention system, which will basically choke down the flow of the water to what it is today. So it shouldn't be above that at any time unless we have a huge rain. But and some water will go towards the east side towards Casey's too, but we're trying to get all the pavement and all the building to go this direction and get it in the system. So other than that, I mean, this facility is totally separate from Lewis and Clark. It's not a part of that operation, so that's why we're kind of set down away from them, and it's its own operations. And other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Again, I think everything else has been covered pretty good by staff.
Any question, Mr. McMillan?
If I may ask just a few to
Sure.
provide a little bit more information on the project. So I believe this image is included in the paper packet submitted with the application materials. Apologies, maybe I'm incorrect, but it shows a couple different building footprints as options. If you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Sure. Option A is the original layout that's shown on the site plan that's part of the submittal, but it reduced the classroom sizes. With it being over budget, they were trying to reduce the amount of walls and exterior walls and square footage in the building to try to get the costs down. Option B is, I believe, essentially what's shown on the other site plan that I included in your packet, except I've rotated it and mirrored it. And it's a little bit less square footage than option A. It's just kind of condensed some stuff inside with less exterior walls. Excuse me. Option C is essentially option A, but we took the last pod that goes out and put it underneath the third pod. So to try to make a double layer in that part of the building, because as the grade drops down towards McCarty Street, that kind of fit good with that option. So we've not really looked at detail at that option because it would probably require an elevator, and that would just add cost to the project. And I don't think what we would save with that layout would justify adding that. So.
And then, again, now I know that on this drawing, which is not what was originally submitted and put in the packet, you've added a little bit of stormwater, at least a preliminary stormwater.
Yes.
If you could touch on not only stormwater, maybe on this side or the other side or both of them, just to give a little bit more information on what the stormwater plan is.
Yeah, so, yeah, as I mentioned, we're on the ridge, so the water's gonna drop off both directions. But the plan right now is, and I didn't show an underground detention system on the original plan because it just wasn't part of the scope yet at that time. But then as part of the pricing, our construction manager wanted to see what it would look like. And so that's why I showed it on this plan, but it would be essentially the same thing. I would be putting some sort of underground detention system underneath the driveway down by McCarty Street and tying to the existing storm system that goes under the road there. And so the intent would be to all the new paving and all the new roof area that causes faster runoff, we would slow it down to match what's there today.
And so just to add a little more clarity on that, because I know stormwater is a recurring concern regarding development projects as they come not only before the Planning and Zoning Commission or the Board of Adjustment, but also for developments that don't require any kind of special review process, that the city has stormwater regulations. So there's stormwater codes on the books, so to speak, within the city code. And kind of the simple way of describing that is that the amount of additional runoff that is coming off of a site needs to be managed to the point that it's the runoff that's coming from the site is at the same level as what existed before the development occurred. That's a very simplistic way of putting that. Of course, the runoff will be longer because there's more water, but the thing is that it has to be detention system of some sort. And then also there's stormwater quality regulations in that and we're particularly concerned with the initial flush of water that comes off of particularly parking lots. That is polluted to some degree, that has to be managed in certain ways. And there's a number of different options for a developer to be able to meet those regulations. And so while there's preliminary stormwater thoughts with regard to development, there are other options, multiple options that a development could pursue in order to make sure that they're meeting those regulations. And so just to kind of make sure it's clear that they're not seeking any kind of variance from any stormwater regulations within this process, nor could they. This is not the proper process for that. This is for zoning code variances, okay? And they're not seeking any zoning code variances for this particular project. In the same sense, they're not seeking, there's building code regulations that will be applied to to this development, and also fire code regulations, along with all other, traffic concerns and regulations. So they're having to meet all of the requirements of the city code. The reason this is in front of you is for the land use decision and the general layout of the site, and making sure that its layout is appropriate for the area, and that any impacts from that development, particularly on neighboring properties in the area, if necessary, are mitigated through conditions. Hence the name conditional use permit. If you could touch on traffic just a little bit more, just to make sure. And so it is a East McCarty Street at this point is a 3-lane road, 1 lane going in each direction with a center turn lane. And then the particular driveway that is envisioned with this development would be 2 turn lanes going out, and then one lane coming in. So a left turn and a right turn going out, and then the lane coming in. Is that similar to the other driveway entrances off of Eastland Drive?
The existing Lewis and Clark does not have turn lanes. Well, I think they did put one in at the bottom of Lewis and Clark Drive. they painted it in. That used to be a city street actually, but now it's a private drive that the school district owns. But it does, I believe, have a left turn lane now, although the buses, when they get backed up, you can't get in my kids went to school there quite a few years ago, but yes, we will. We actually, East McCarty Street, of course, has more traffic than Eastland Drive, but it also, as Eric mentioned, is a 3-lane road with a center turn lane. So our initial look is that will be adequate for this facility. We do have quite a bit of parent pickup drop off right now. They're on St. Mary's Boulevard, which is an extremely narrow street with cars parked on both sides. It seems like every time I've been there, and they drive through the National Guard Armory driveway that's actually, I think, a city alley, or however it's defined, a city alley or street, but it's very narrow, and goes back, also serves the back of Miss Vogel's property. But then they exit out onto St. Mary's and then have to wind down the Missouri Boulevard. So I think this is going to be a much improved location for that. They do have buses that bus some of the children, but then there are quite a few parents that pick up, drop off. So we've tried to accommodate both of those, and keeping them separated, I think, will help with the traffic at both locations. So of course, Lewis and Clark Drive, Lewis and Clark will be using that drive also as far as traffic. We haven't done a detailed traffic study yet. I don't know if it's really required at this time, but if it is, we will definitely do that. And decide if any improvements need to be made to East McCarty Street.
Is most of the traffic, or is the setup designed to where most of the traffic is East McCarty as opposed to Lewis and Clark?
Yeah, I think we're trying to keep the car riders going to East McCarty, where only the buses would be using Lewis and Clark Drive. It's kind of how we have it set up right now.
Any other questions for the applicant? I appreciate you going into such great detail on the stormwater issues, because the topography is a little bit unique over there, to say the least.
Yes, stormwater detention, the cheapest way to do it is an above ground system, kind of a big pond or a berm with some grass on the inside. And a lot of times you don't even know it's a detention basin, but given how narrow we are, that's why we're looking at going underground here. And the underground system actually is a very effective stormwater quality. It cleans the water very good, so it's kind of kill two birds with one stone there.
Glad to hear you guys utilizing that resource, because about 30 years ago I was in on some planning and experiments with permeable paving in parking lots and filtration mechanisms, and we were excited about what was going to happen with that, so I'm really grateful that you guys are utilizing that. Any other questions for the applicant? I do have a couple of questions. Perhaps Mr. Underwood could address these. Let's do it this way. Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this request? Please give your name and address for the record.
Frank Underwood, Jefferson City School District, 315 East Dunklin, Jefferson City, Missouri. I would just like to say, we're very excited about this, and outside of the reasons that Brian has mentioned, right now the current early childhood center up on St. Mary's, it is an old building. It needs remodeled. That is part of the plan. Once this building is done and the children are over here, is go in there and remodel that building, similar to what we did at Thorpe Gordon here this last summer. This building here with the additional square foot, it would allow us to also service additional early childhood as well as preschool students in this building. Currently, as the year progresses and these kiddos turn 3 years old, they apply and then we run out of room. And so what this will do is allow us to bring in probably around 30 to 50 additional students, whether they be early childhood or preschool. It will require more staff as well, but that's part of the process. I'll touch a little bit on traffic. That driveway there that is drawn in, as well as the other one with the building laid out the other way, would be adequately long to house all those vehicles waiting for parent pickup and or drop off. Currently at St. Mary's, it wraps around the school and onto St. Mary's. Very excited about having buses separate from that. Right now, the buses run right with the cars. The buses exit through the armory and the cars go around, and so there is delay getting those buses out of there with that parent backup on there. It does run a different time bell schedule than Lewis and Clark, so that traffic still, even that traffic won't interfere with each other with the 50-minute difference in there, and then the midday piece of the preschool. So there wouldn't be any overlap of traffic on Lewis and Clark Drive, as well as on East McCarty with those parents coming to pick up the middle school kids. I'm very excited about the project and looking forward to it. You had some questions for me.
Yeah. Any of you guys have questions? I guess I'm a little unclear as what an early childhood development center encompasses. I have to believe this is some sort of a big umbrella of lots of different services and entities. Is that correct?
Yeah, and you're speaking to a facilities guy, so I couldn't really speak much on the education piece of it. What I understand from the early childhood side of it is those kids are somewhat disabled, whether it be physically and or whether it be speech, mobility. And then the preschool is just that. It's a preschool for kids to to go to school before they get to kindergarten. But the early childhood center piece of that is for those developmentally, I wouldn't want to say disabled, developmentally behind, if you will, in getting there. And then some of them are disabled. We run several children in there with mobility issues and things like that. But again, I couldn't expand too much on the services outside of that.
Perhaps you could give us a general or an approximate number of students that would be in this facility?
Absolutely. It starts out small at the beginning of the year, but as those kids turn 3 years old, they become eligible to enroll. So we start out probably around 80 and then finish the year probably 120, 140 with the total in there. This building will allow us to do pretty close to 200 kids, and if we're able to build it the way that we go now, we might be able to get a little more than 200 kiddos in there.
Okay. Any other questions? I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this item in front of us?
My name is Jack Deacon.
You swore in a while ago.
I'm sworn in, yes. My name is Jack Deacon. I live at 236 South Bluff Street. I'm very much in favor of this. My property almost joins the side of that. There's about a 50-foot barrier between our back end of our property and the church there. For years, we've been promised an East End school, a new school, a lot of different promises over the years. I think if an elementary school would have gone there, we would have had a lot more traffic, a lot more students. This is sorely needed. The East End has been underdeveloped for quite a few years. This is a long overdue. I know John Landwehr's been pushing for it for a number of years. The children need it, but I just want to see the development in the East End. I'm a little concerned with the traffic down there towards Casey, the in and out on McCarty Street. And it's a two-edged sword. We're really almost country-like. They're really rural, but I hate to see it developed. But we have to develop it. I mean, I think it's long overdue that if we're going to grow, we're going to have to do something with our younger children. We can't just start a kindergarten anymore. That's a moot point. So I'm definitely in favor of this one. Is there any questions?
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition of this request? Seeing none, Is there anyone who would like to speak on this request for any reason? If you could approach, name and address for the record, and we need to get you sworn in. She did? Okay. I'm glad you guys are keeping me on task.
You have to read, so we.
Appreciate it.
Hi,
Name and address for the
My
record.
name's Colleen Meredith, and our address is 1841 East McCarty Street. We're directly across the street from this property. And we had, when you sent us the mail, we had this picture here that we were sent. The other photo of the alternate school, that looks like that's completely parking lot, like right across the street from our house. I think this would be aesthetically nicer for us to look at. I don't know, what your results are in the end, but the other one looks like it's all parking lot and driveway right across the street, the other design. The other thing is our mailbox is right across the street there. I assume that'll be moved somewhere because it's right, like the picture you saw, that was our mailbox there. And the detention, I appreciate talking about the detention. That's very important. When they did the middle school up there, I think it was probably mostly during construction, but we were greatly impacted. That little creek comes down, it comes right behind our house. And we had so much more storm water when that school was being built. It tore out some of our banks and things. So we are very concerned about that during construction probably. It's all pasture now, and so there's a lot of infiltration, and so once that starts construction and everything, we want to make sure that water can be handled so it doesn't impact our property. And people don't see it, but it comes right behind our house, and that creek can really rage. So those are our big concerns, I think. We're not opposed to the school at all.
Any questions for this? Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Name and address for the record, please.
Any reason. Any reason instead of opposition.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this request for any reason? Name and address for the record, please.
It's Steve Meredith, 1841 East McCarty, same property. I just had a question during construction. Is there going to be a tremendous amount of leveling on top of the hill there? And because that is a crown and you've got pretty big buildings. And so it's during the construction phase that I'm concerned about the water coming off. Because again, when the high school was built, we had a tremendous issue.
Okay,
So
let
that's a
me ask
question.
Mr. McMillan to return to the podium to address your concern. Thank you.
Yes, the site will need to be leveled to accommodate this new building, so that will be the first part of construction is probably either blasting or chipping rock and moving material to fill in the sides of the site, and that's just part of the construction process. We will have to get a DNR land disturbance permit that will require us to put all sorts of what's called best management practices to help with erosion and control and runoff from the site. And so things like that are much more improved than they were when Lewis and Clark was built. When Lewis and Clark was built, there were no regulations like that. So I think those types of things will help alleviate any issues during construction.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else for any reason? Okay. Seeing none, we'll now close the testimony. Courtney, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So after review the conditional use permit, that particular use, staff has found that the use is consistent with the comprehensive plan and its intents and purposes. Conditional would be compatible with the surrounding civic and institutional uses. Staff is proposing again that signage is to follow the regulations of the C1 Neighborhood Commercial District, and observation of the uses complies with all applicable city code requirements, including those of the zoning, building, fire, and stormwater specifications. Would continue in processes such as site plan review, permitting, and inspections. And so before the board is one form of motion which would approve, it is a motion to approve a conditional use permit for an early childhood center with the condition that signage would follow the specifications of the C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Ms. Courtney? Thank you. Okay, would someone like to make a motion on this matter?
I move to approve the requested conditional use permit for a new standalone 71,000 square foot early childhood center with the following condition: signage allowance for the site to be regulated by requirements of the C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district.
Second?
Second.
Discussion.
I would just like to say, or ask that the school district consider the neighbors' request to minimize the stormwater drainage during the construction and help to keep their property conserved during the construction process.
Anyone else, any comments? I would agree. So construction is one of those things that it's always difficult, especially in topographically challenged areas such as this one. That area is difficult, no doubt. The use of the property is a good thing. Trying to centralize all of these things, and it seems to be quite fluid in terms of layout and buildings and things of this nature, and you guys are going to work all that out. I do have traffic concerns over there. One of the, I guess anytime you have an arterial like McCarty Street, you're going to have traffic volumes going to and fro, and then you have turning lanes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're just going to have trouble. That's all there is to it. But once again, we're seeing a situation where the good certainly outweighs the potential difficulties as well. I applaud the efforts of the school district to provide for more of an opportunity for education, especially on the earlier developments. It's something that is critical to give these kids a head start and a chance. Because believe me, they're going into a pretty tough world right now. Anything else? Tiffany, roll call.
Hake.
Aye.
Lacy.
Aye.
Schaefer.
Aye.
Seaver.
Aye.
Cartwright.
Aye. Motion carries. We're done and you won, so if you have any questions, see these people over here. Thank you all for your participation. It's always very important that information comes before this board making these decisions. Okay, people. The gallery is excused. We do have some matters for the board. All right, thank you. Any miscellaneous reports?
No miscellaneous reports.
Okay. All right, election of officers.
So October is the month to elect officers for the Board of Adjustment.
And we're meeting this October for a change.
Yes, exactly. So we are on schedule this time. There's two positions to be elected, the chair and the vice chair. And at the, however the board would like to proceed with it.
Okay, the chair asks for nomination for the current chair position.
Are you guys interested in serving again?
I'm willing to stay.
Yes, ma'am.
I nominate Drew Hake, just one at a time.
Yes.
Drew Hake for chair.
Second?
Second.
I will abstain. Vote? Do we need roll call for this, or?
No, unless there's a dissenting.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Okay, vice chair.
I would nominate Jim Crabtree.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none?
I abstained, sir.
Okay. Okay, once again, I wish to thank the board members for their participation, giving us some time out of your day, Mr. Aaron. And city staff especially, thank you for helping us through all of this. So,
I'll volunteer to be the treasurer.
see, Mr. Barron, I think we're about 30,000 in the hole. All right.
I will, I'm not sure if we'll have a meeting next month. There's a couple things we're talking to people about, but so far we haven't received any applications. I didn't expect one, but we'll have to wait and see. And so, as yet to be determined if there will be in November.
Okay. Thank you all for keeping me straight. All right, we're done.
Thank you all. Hope you have a very good day.
We're your trust.
I interjected.